Welcome back everybody to another video. Today we have a video for all the new lights and the free-to-play players. Since Shadowkeep, Beyond Light, and Witch Queen are all free to play for the rest of the month until Final Shape comes out, this video is going to be for all those players that are looking to do the raids that were locked behind the DLC. So first, we're gonna start with Vogue. Boggs is actually free to play already. And let me preface real quick. All these raids at the bottom here are not currently in the game. They're not in the game. You can't even do them. So I put them in the not in game / unplayable. So we're not gonna worry about them. But we have the 8 raids that are in the game right now, and we are going to just rank them based off of 2 things. One, how easy they are to learn the mechanics, and 2, how good the weapons are from each raid. So I think we're just going to start with Vault of Glass. In terms of a new light player / free-to-play player, well, you can already play this already, but in terms of learning stuff, it's very easy. Like very easy, because the whole mechanic is just oracles and defend like plates essentially, or defend objects. There's the relic that only that one person has to pick up, but it's these are very simple mechanics, because this was the first raid in Destiny ever back in 2014, so the mechanics were pretty simple. So I will say this is definitely the most beginner friendly. Definitely putting this in S tier, because 1, it's beginner friendly. It's the most beginner friendly in the game. And 2, because of the weapons. You got Fatebringer, which is a great kinetic hand cannon for ad clears. You got Heathen Vengeance, which was a really sought out rocket launcher. Corrective Measure is a great machine gun. Vision of Confluence, like Praetor's Revenge, they're all very solid weapons that even I use them sometimes still in current day. So I would definitely put this in S tier, because it definitely fits those criteria. We're gonna do Crota as number 2. So Crota was actually the second raid added, the winter of 2014 actually. And it's definitely a little bit different in Destiny 2. Like the mechanics are a little bit different. It's not as easy as it was back then. In Destiny 2, the Chalice of Light is kind of something you have to pick up, and it has to be kind of cycled through the entire team throughout each encounter. So in the maze, you have to cycle the Chalice of Lights through lamps. In Bridge, you have to cycle it. Death Singer, Crota, like it all has to get cycled through. So not that it's still not super difficult in my opinion. Plus you have Swordbreaker, which is a really fun strand shotgun that I use actually for one of my Titan builds. You have Word of Crota. I really honestly can't think of any other weapons you would really want from Crota. I know some people like Oversoul Edict. Honestly, you might just be getting this for Necrochasm, the raid exotic. I'll be honest, if you're doing this raid, because and the armor looks pretty nice, but as of like the only thing I would use still in like current, like for my builds, would be Swordbreaker. It's only one shot, it's only a shotgun, which you probably could get somewhere else, honestly. So I don't know if I really would run this raid that much in Destiny 2. So I'm probably gonna put it at B. Third, we have King's Fall. the third and final returning raid from Destiny 1 that's in D2. This is almost just as fun, if not better, than it was in D1. I do like this raid a lot. I like the changes they made to it. So I definitely think this is a good encounter. If you did play Destiny 1, encounters are pretty much the same, except for like now there is a set order to do War Priest. You have to make sure you kill the correct daughter, the one that's not like physically like lighting up her own fire, as we call it. So not much has changed. Actually, the changes they did make were definitely better. And is also, I don't think they're that hard to learn, and I love all the weapons from this raid pretty much. You know, you got Defiance of Yasmin, which is one of my favorite snipers for Crucible. You have Zaoli's Bane, which is very good right now for PvE because it's like a mini Sunshot. You have Quilliam's Terminus, which is a stasis machine gun, which a lot of people love because it's stasis. You know, you have Smiter Moraine. People like these are really good weapons actually from this raid. So I would honestly probably put this in S as well with Vault of Glass. Next, we have Deepstone Crypt. Weapon wise, this is probably the best. Weapon wise, this belongs in S tier. And actually, you know what? I don't even need to explain this too much. I think every single weapon from this raid is good. Like every single one can get really busted perks, and you can craft these weapons. Same thing with King's Fall. You can craft the weapons. So essentially what you do is you get 5 red border weapons. You take the pattern off of those. You can craft the weapon with the perks that you want, that it can obviously roll with. It has like a pool of perks that it rolls with, and you pick those perks. And you can do that with all of them. Every single weapon in this raid is busted. And the mechanics aren't difficult either. This is when it starts to get a little bit challenging, I would say. This is when you go from like beginner to intermediate. It's somewhere in between. It's on the way up to intermediate. I'll say that for Deepstone. Very easy mechanics and great weapons. The encounters are actually like they're fun encounters to do as well. You know, they definitely keep you on your toes, and they make you think a little bit. So you're not just sitting there shooting things all boring. Like Vault of Glass is very boring because you just kind of sit there and shoot stuff. But this is like you're a little bit more engaged with this one. So I do like Deepstone a lot. Next we got Garden. I'll be honest, this doesn't even belong on the list. Like if this, I'm putting it in C because I have to put it on the list. Honestly, I wish it was not in game. I'll be honest with you. I wish it wasn't in game. The mechanics, if you like Gambit, you'll like this raid for sure. Not many people like Gambit, but if you do, you'll like the raid. No weapon to my knowledge, besides the raid exotic Divinity, is actually worth getting from this raid. I've only have one clear on this raid, but I've gotten many attempts just up to the final boss, and I was like, I realized I don't need anything from the raid. Anything that you can get from this raid, you can get from somewhere else that's better. So only run the raid if you want Divinity, the raid exotic, which is good. It makes the crit it applies a bubble like crit onto the boss's like body, so it's easier to hit crits, and it's a 15% buff to weapons. So that's strictly the only reason to run this raid, is to get the raid exotic. I'm telling you, anything else you can get from this raid, you can get it from somewhere else, and it's better. We have my personal favorite, Vow of the Disciple. This is my personal favorite raid. The mechanics, this might be the most complex besides Last Wish. I would say this actually is more complex, strictly because the amount of memory you have to do for this raid. There's 21 symbols you have to remember for this raid. Obviously, like, there's charts and all that you can look up and find the names for all the symbols and all that. But this is very not beginner friendly. I'll tell you that. Very not beginner friendly. As for the weapons, I actually do like them a lot. There's about 2 or 3 I'm trying to get right now for my build. But again, for new players, the weapons are good. All right. I would definitely say run these raids first and get kind of a feel for like how mechanics work, and get a few decent weapons to help you through this raid, because this raid is a lot of remembering symbols, killing high health enemies for some reason, and DPS. So I would definitely say it's not beginner friendly, but I think the weapons are more useful than these raids, than Crota and Garden. All right, and I'll do these 2, but I'll say right now, Last Wish, you need to buy the Forsaken pack, and Root of Nightmares, you need to buy Lightfall, which are not in the free-to-play bundle. So I'll do them anyway in case, you know, you change your mind and you want to buy these DLCs. But just so you know, these 2 you cannot, as a free-to-play player right now, you cannot play these 2. But if I had to put them on, if you were interested, remember, in terms of how easy the mechanics are to learn and how good the weapons are, Last Wish, I would probably I want to put it in between B and A. I actually put it high B. The mechanics are not as easy. There's not as many symbols, but there are still symbols in this raid that you have to remember. The second and third encounter the second encounter is very a lot of LFGs have problems with that. If you are a new player and you like run LFG, a lot of people have problem with the second encounter called Shuro-Chi in Last Wish, because it requires a lot of coordination that LFGs most of the time, I don't want to like be rude, but most of the time they don't have it. And then the fourth encounter, I believe, which is Vault. Anyone who tries to do Vault without watching a video, actually, you could watch a video. You could watch Dado's video and you would probably still be confused for the first like 30 minutes of running Vault. So Vault is definitely the hardest. Vault might be the hardest mechanic that has ever been in Destiny. So that's why I'm putting it at B tier. And then Riven is also a not super, like, the mechanic isn't hard, but that also requires a lot of coordination, which is like the final boss. That requires a lot of coordination to do as well. As for weapons though, again, nothing really comes to mind that you would really want from this raid. You might want the hand cannon because it's how D1 Fatebringer was, but now we have actual Fatebringer in the game that can get better perks. So it's like there's nothing. Honestly, I don't know what you would really run Last Wish for. Maybe Chattering Bone, the pulse rifle. I know a lot of people like the pulse rifle. Oh, I lied. The one weapon you would run it for would be Apex Predator, which is the rocket, because it can get recombination bait and switch, which is a very good DPS rocket for bosses, and you can craft it, which just makes it that much better. But yeah, so I think Last Wish, the only weapon you really want would be the rocket launcher. and the mechanics are not user friendly. And then last is Root of Nightmares. The mechanic is very simple. It all has to do with light orbs and dark orbs. Basically, like, the whole thing is about light and dark orbs and kind of connecting paths with the orbs. Nothing about this is too difficult. The problem is again, you might want the trace rifle, honestly, from this, because the trace rifle is really good for very niche things. It has a very specific purpose in the game, the trace rifle, but it's good at that, you know. So maybe the trace rifle from here. I know a lot of people like Rufus's Effigy, which is the auto rifle. I actually like the auto rifle. Briar's Contempt, which is another good one. That is a linear fusion, but it's a 3-round burst, which I also really want. I don't have it yet, unfortunately, but that's also really good. And then the Raid Exotic, which might be one of the best exotics that has ever been in the game. I mean, because Power Creep is just insane with this exotic. It's a double barrel shotgun where the first shot shoots stasis and it freezes the enemy, and the second shot does solar and it ignites and blows them up. So the Raid Exotic for this is very good. Those 3-ish weapons I said, also very good rolls. And then the mechanics aren't too hard. So I would definitely say A tier. Now, if anyone that has played all these raids before, let me know what you think down below if I made a good tier list for the new lights and the free-to-play players. I hope this reaches the right audience. I hope they see this, because I just want to help out and get them ready for hopefully final shape if they decide to, you know, to buy it. So if you guys enjoyed, please leave a like, comment below what you think, if you think this tier list is accurate or not, or what would you change on it, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later.